Welcome to NCSS Here for You. For over 50 years, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to quality psychosocial services to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously, and we strive to provide the highest quality services. According to Erik Erikson, a noted developmental psychologist, every person must pass through a series of 8 interrelated stages over the entire life cycle. NCSS provides a continuum of services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. NCSS's purpose is creating a stronger community, one person at a time. Now, let's get to today's show. I'm Joe Halco, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Each month on this program, we discuss a human services topic, and we do that with staff from one of our 3 service divisions. Our 3 service divisions are Behavioral Health Services, Children, Youth, and Family Services, and Developmental Services. And, on occasion, we have guests from organizations that NCSS collaborates with throughout the year. This month's episode is titled Behavioral Support Team. The Developmental Services Division's Behavioral Support Team provides support to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who have been victims of trauma and abuse. The team provides 24-hour residential and community-based programming. Supports are geared towards helping individuals with behavioral challenges to gain the skills required to achieve personal goals and become contributing members of the community. To discuss the Behavioral Support Team in greater detail, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guests. They're Scott LaValle, Team Leader of the Behavioral Support Team, and Joe Phoenix, Acting House Manager. I want to welcome both of you to the show.
Thank you.
Well, let's begin with what is the mission of the Behavioral Support Team?
Okay, so the overall mission for the Behavioral Support Team, first is, we strive to help people have their basic human needs met, housing, food, shelter, and once we've established that where they feel safe and comfortable, whether it's at Berkshire in our residence or with a shared living provider, from that point, once we've established that, we can work to facilitate positive changes in their behavior. So we try to approach it from a respectful point of view, understanding that they're able to make decisions just like everyone else, and we really respect those decisions. That's kind of the philosophy we try to employ with the overall team.
Now, can you talk about the individual support plans that your team provides?
Yep. So the team kind of has 2 components. We have the residents at Berkshire, but we also have the community. We serve people in the community with the shared living providers. So each person gets their own plan, whether it's if they need a behavior support plan, an individual service agreement, and within that plan, the service coordinator would sit down with the person that's being supported and identify goals that are important to them. And if there is a behavior support plan, that plan is developed specifically for that person. So there's no one size fits all.
Sure.
We take a great deal of time to sit down and develop a comprehensive plan that serves their needs individually. We found is you can't really treat people the same way, even if their behaviors present the same way. The reason for the behaviors might be different. We found a little success doing it that way.
The plans also grow with the individual. As they improve or change, we change the program to adapt to what they need.
Now, let's talk about outcomes that have been realized as a result of the program.
Okay. So obviously, when we put a plan in place or we identify some goals, there's an end result that we hope to achieve. So the outcome, and it can range anywhere from just kind of their basic daily skills, being able to make their own meal. And then we have the guys at Berkshire where there's the potential for them to be violent, and just helping them curb their impulsiveness. So what we do is we'll identify those, and we try to track them for improvements. And if we find things aren't working, then we need to kind of tweak our plan a little bit. Why isn't it working? And I think we do a really good job of being collaborative and getting everyone's input. There's not one person making a decision as to, oh, well, this isn't working, let's try this. We'll sit down, but we're not reactive about it. Just because something happens one time, we don't just throw the whole plan out and start from scratch. We're pretty thoughtful and patient. We'll get people together, and we'll chat about it, and we'll maybe try to anticipate what the potential is if we make this change or that change.
And some of that comes from the individual themselves. They'll tell you what they want, what they need. Some of it doable, some of it not. Some of it takes time to earn, to earn up to. But in general, we communicate every day. The whole team is, talking if there's an issue or something good happens, to encourage the good or discourage anything that's not. We try to be real consistent as far as everybody handles things the same way. But at the same time, get them used to having different personalities in the home. Even though we all follow the same rules, we all approach it a little differently, whether it's demeanor or facial expressions, or so it helps them to learn what it's like to be out in the community. A lot of people have been limited to who they interact with, and we try to get them out there as much as possible.
Yeah, I think one of the things we do really well is, instead of focusing on maybe the negative or what went wrong, we really try to put a lot of effort into what was positive of that. What did we learn from that? The whole thing might have been a mini disaster. But can we take something from that? Can we learn from it? And move forward? And I think we approach things with trying to present as many opportunities for the individuals to be successful, even if it's just a little, just a little success. And we employ that with when we do have, consequences that would naturally result from their actions. We really try to turn it into a learning opportunity, and focus our effort on making sure they learn something from that, rather than taking a punitive approach. Really, and then tomorrow's a new day. Something happens today, and I know Joe's going to jump in on this too. Today's today. This happened. I'm not taking it personally. It's not a step back. We learned something. We're going to move forward tomorrow. That way, we're creating opportunities every day. There's not, this happened, and for a month you're not going to be allowed to go there. No, we want to go back there tomorrow, or the day after, depending on. There's some variation, but we want to create that opportunity as soon as possible. There was a mistake. There, hopefully you learn from it. We want to create that opportunity again as soon as possible.
A lot of times, when something does happen, first reaction is, avoidance. Don't want to deal with it. Don't want to, When we encourage, let's talk about it. We're not mad. We're not going to, let's just, what can we do so it doesn't happen again? Go ahead.
It sounds to me like one of the really important components of all of this is the fact that the individual themselves is involved in where you go from here, as opposed to being told,
absolutely,
here's where you're going to go from here. You know what I'm saying? That's such a different take, perhaps, than what they've dealt with throughout their lives up to that point.
And the staff will have that conversation with them, in the moment.
It's hard in the beginning. They've never experienced that kind of interaction. So you get a lot of defensive But over time, they'd like to cooperate, and because they learn that we're there for them.
There's
we,
the
we want
consistency
them
and
to
trust.
succeed. We're not there to hold them back. It's keep moving forward, and over time, and again, it's different for everybody, but they tend to grow. So
And Scott, you mentioned the word trust, and I have to believe that, and as you've both stated, that since everybody is so different, that trust level and the gaining of trust is certainly probably way different for person one than person two because of their experiences and their background. But still a path that it's like in anything, whether it's in an office environment or whatever, until trust has been established, it's hard to get to that next level. So I would imagine that, that is a key moment.
Yeah,
for any of these individuals.
it's important to be consistent and not give false hopes, or false, but to be accurate in whatever or if you don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me look into that for you. Give them answers and get back to them with the answer. Don't just leave it. Oh, we'll find out sometime. Giving them as much information as you can, because it's new for them too, and they're learning, and we're learning. We're learning what they need, and how to help them do it. So.
And the consistency, and this goes across the whole team out in the community with everyone, including Berkshire's, the consistency among staff working with the people they support helps develop that trust, because the individuals you support will maybe try to exploit if they feel this person
It's
hasn't
softer.
perceived as a little softer, or maybe the boundaries a little. Every individual is different, and if we can be as consistent as possible, the person that we're supporting doesn't get the perception that, oh, well, so-and-so is working today, I can get this.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's very important with everyone we serve, whether they're at Berkshire or whether with a shared living provider. That consistency and those good boundaries is so important for the trust, because the person might perceive or not trust you because, well, person A, lets me do this.
Yes.
And then person B doesn't really. And the staff are pretty good at supporting each other in that. One of the guys might come and say, hey, he's really working me over. He wants this really bad. How do you kind of redirect him? And they're pretty good about that. Pretty, having those open conversations of.
And we communicate in the moment too. I mean, our phones are always around. If someone's not sure how to do this, what would you do? We work through it together. We kind of become a family unit, and everybody has their position depending on what is perceived,
Sure.
because we live with them, for the most part. We are their family,
Yeah.
in the moment. So we create, we have to have that relationship, to gain the trust, and it goes both ways as well. We have to trust them, they trust us. So.
Now, the program that you manage, speaking of Berkshire, the program that you manage at Berkshire has had some fabulous success stories. Could you talk about the type of individual that you serve at that location?
Okay. Predominantly, we serve the offender population. Currently, right now, we have two, I guess you would call them violent offenders. One we accepted, he transitioned out of Northwestern Correctional Facility. The other one was a transfer from another designated service agency. So they both one's been up there about almost 6 months, and the other one's going on three. So, previously we've served other type of offenders. 3 of them we've transitioned the last 18 months. Transitioned 3 of them out. So those would be the success stories. One's currently living with a shared living provider. The other one's with a shared living provider today, but is moving essentially out on his own next week. We'll see how that goes. But it's a lot easier to support people as they're trying to move forward. And
Sure.
if they stumble, we're there to support them and help them. We certainly don't want to hold them back.
Yeah, we definitely encourage, And sometimes, you know, their goals may be above what is possible, but you know, we won't know if we don't try. So let's see how far we can get. And
I think a lot of the success, I think, you know, Joe mentioned kind of like a family unit. You know, the guys that work up there are, they're just, it's a solid, good group of people that genuinely care. You know, we've been pretty selective with who we've hired to bring up there. There's certain characteristics that are very important. The guys are, and it's kind of a lifestyle because it's open 24/7. So guys are up there 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They're very responsive, not only to the people we support, but to each other.
even the people that have already moved on, you know, I mean, still have communication almost weekly with, you know, they'll call, you know, I need help with my checkbook, or, you know, can you, you know, tell me how to do this, or who should I call for that? And, you know, even though they're not in the program, you know, we become kind of family, and, you know, we'll help them out, or, you know, just for the sake of helping, you know.
And I would imagine there again, that's where, because you over time built up the trust, they know that even though they've moved on, but maybe they've run into a situation that they've got some questions,
Right.
that they've got somebody that they believe in that's not going to steer them the wrong way and is going to try
Right.
to help them.
But
In
you know,
that instance.
so the overall, you know, to actually answer the question, would be the offenders services. You know, it's to keep the community safe. It's to keep past victims safe. It's to keep the person we're supporting safe, and to help them, you know, kind of move forward, reduce any kind of recidivism of any, you know, any offenses they've made, because the recidivism rate is going to increase with any anxiety, any extra stress that comes into their life. And if we can help support them to learn some skills, some coping skills, job skills, anything we can help them, it's going to reduce the stress that they're going to encounter. And it's just going to make them more successful, which reduces the likelihood that they're going to reoffend. And that's kind of the, you know, the big picture of it.
Sure.
You know, anything we can do to help them is going to reduce the likelihood that they're going to reoffend, which keeps the community safe, keeps past victims safe, and it keeps the individual safe. I think that's probably the most important part of it.
And that can take the form of something as simple as fishing, you know, getting a hobby, to you know, a full-time job, and getting a license, you know,
Sure.
and all of which is something better to do with your time.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is a lot of times the guys, when they come to us, they don't even realize their own potential. It takes a little while to, you know, some trial and error, but a lot of times there's tremendous potential there for them to be incredibly independent and actually go on and live a productive, happy life, which is much better than, you know, putting them in prison and just leaving them there.
Well, and with what you're saying too, that I find interesting, is the fact that I'm sure in most of their life, what you're looking for is you're trying to build on their strengths.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like you're saying, is that in many instances they come to you, and just because of the experiences they've had, there hasn't been somebody to sit down with them and say, let's take a look at what you're good at or what you'd like to do, as opposed to all the negatives.
Right.
So I can imagine that once you unlock the fact that somebody's got some really great abilities in certain areas that they may not have even realized, or felt that maybe they weren't really all that good at something, but by practicing and going and doing, they find that maybe they're not, that they're really good at it. That's got to be huge as part of this whole component and puzzle of trying to get these individuals on the right track. Because I have to believe that that's something that's very foreign to what they're, you know, what they bring with them from their
Right.
past.
Yes.
I think a good example would be, you know, we get a lot of guys that we serve on the team, a lot of the people we support. There's a potential for manipulation to get what they want, and you can turn that into, well, how do we turn that into advocating for myself? You know, so we help them make that transition from from the manipulative behavior to the strength-based approach would be,
Yeah.
I'm advocating for myself. I need something. I need help identifying exactly what it is. And then, so we look at that as a positive. If someone's willing to manipulate you to get what you want, or get what they want, they just need help kind of redirecting.
Reframing that,
Right.
refocusing. Yeah.
And a lot of it's just being honest. You know, it's like, you know, they're kind of going around roundabout way of doing it, and just coming around and saying, you know, is this what
That's
you
what I
want? You know, well, this is what we need to do.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the highly trained staff that you have at the location and what's involved there?
Really, I mean, it starts with kind of picking the person with the right temperament. You know, we were talking about it earlier, and most of the guys are relatively laid back,
yeah.
you know, calm. You know, they're not easily riled up, not really, you know, certainly not overreactive. You know, they kind of have the ability to kind of, all right, what just happened? Why did it happen?
When things go haywire, don't react, you know, the same way. Just
Because the guys they're supporting they're gonna feed off that. So if you're able to, you're modeling. You guys do a tremendous job of modeling behavior. You know, they don't vent in front of the people they're supporting. That's important. But you know, they go through therapeutic options. Before the last two guys came up, we did a kind of a modified self-defense training, just because there was the potential there. And the feeling is the more training they have, the more confident they're going to feel.
Sure.
The less likely they are to react in a way that they probably wouldn't if they didn't feel threatened. So a lot of it just comes to, you know, having guys up there that are, you know, confident and providing whatever training they need to help. And you know, the division's been fabulous. Whenever we've come and said, hey, we think this is what we need to support these guys, and we get it, which makes everyone's job, you know, it makes everyone's job better.
Sure. Yeah.
Being-
Understandable.
being a respectful type of person as well. You know, mutual respect, as far as you demand respect, and you get it back. You know what I mean? It's a two-way street. It's like, I'm going to treat you like the same way I want to be treated, and you know, that kind of comes with time. But
Now, it's my understanding that the clients go through 3 phases during their program. Can you explain what these phases consist of and,
Yep.
and how it moves along?
So what we kind of looked at was being able to have the program when the first 2 or first 3 that came into the program, it really didn't have a time frame established to it. It didn't have an end. But there was a lot that was learned along the way. So we figured we should probably put a time frame on it, and figured, you know, what's a good time frame. So all right, you know, 2 years. Let's see if what can we do in 2 years. So we take like the first 3 months when someone comes in. It's kind of an acclimation phase. We have just a few, I don't know, maybe a half dozen rules at the house that are going to apply to whoever comes in there. It's for their own safety, for staff safety, and
staff
just-
follows them as well. I mean, for
Yeah.
the most, you know, we all, you know, whether it's a chore or
Yep.
you know, we all have our own, and you know, it's
but it just gives them a few things for some, you know, mild compliance.
Sure.
We go shopping on this day. I don't know why. It's just that's the day we go shopping. You know, there's some chores. You know, we want the house to be clean and kept up. Yeah, so there's some basic stuff, and during that 3-month phase, we really try to help them learn that without being punitive, and then try to figure out what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, where do they need help, and then kind of put together a plan. You know, that everyone will sit down. That 3-month time frame, we'd sit down with the service coordinator and the staff, and we'd all say, all right, you know, what does he need? You know, how's he doing here? Oh, he's really good at this. Oh, he doesn't like that much. And then we'll focus on all those strengths, and we try to put a 1 year, 15 months, and then every quarter we kind of look at it, say, oh, how are we doing with this? How are where are we struggling? What else can we introduce to help? And then there's some flexibility in that. The time frame. We would look at it and say, all right, is he ready to start transitioning? Can we start looking at other options that are less restrictive? And then try to make a decision and spend a few months maybe offering some respite where you could go spend a weekend with a shared living provider, and then start trying to kind of test the waters a little bit, see if they're ready.
Sure.
And we didn't want to tie ourselves into it's a strictly 24-month program. We want to make sure people are ready. We don't want to set them up for failure.
Flexible.
Right. It's still flexible, but by kind of putting a time frame on it, it helps guide it. There's an outcome that you're looking for, and it's like, hey, can we do this? Can we move this guy through? Help him build some skills, and then move him to a less restrictive placement where he's not with staff 24/7. He has a little more choice in what he wants to do. So that's.
That is generally, their goal. Their biggest want is to be on their own and take care of themselves. Not be in a situation where they're relying on somebody else. So there's a lot of drive there to do whatever it takes.
Well, and again, with what you're saying, what really comes through this is that they're involved in the plan, and they're involved in, trying to move things forward and reassess when things don't work and what needs to be modified to then try to take that next step.
Right.
And I keep saying that because versus some other protocols perhaps in their life where they've never encountered being a part of the plan.
Right.
Here's a plan for you, but oh, by the way, you don't have any say
in it. No, I've looked at kind of the way other programs have approached similar supports in place, and it almost seems like there's more of an element of control. This is what you're going to do, and this is when you're going to do it, and they really try to control as many aspects of that person's life with good intentions. The intention is to keep them out of trouble, and keep them safe, keep the community safe. But when you have that element of control, you're not really able to move them forward towards independence. And we want to kind of do the opposite of that, have very minimal control. We have a residence they live in, and it almost ends right there. Once you take safety off the table, that's our concern with any type of control, is for everyone's safety. From that, we're flexible. How can we make it work? What do you want? How can we help you get there?
Show us that you can do it.
Yeah, we ask.
Give them the space to try.
And create opportunities, to succeed, and then to also let them know that if they try something and they fail, it's not the end of it. We're going to try again. Maybe we just have to do
Try
it
a different way.
Yeah.
Well, certainly a great approach, and it's hard to believe, but our time is up for this episode, but certainly a terrific program. So I want to thank my guests, Scott LaValle and Joe Phoenix, for being on the show today and sharing their insights on the benefits provided by the Behavioral Support Team. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about NCSS and all of our programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You. This has been another episode of NCSS Here for You. We hope that you found today's discussion informative and educational. For over 50 years, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to quality psychosocial services to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. Thanks once again for tuning in this month. NCSS's purpose remains creating a stronger community, one person at a time.